Hello everyone, welcome to an analysis of Dance, where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard Dance charts in immaculate detail, with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. Well, at least I was half right here. I mean, I didn't expect that Skrillex would debut a lot, but honestly the fact that he didn't debut anything here is a little bit concerning, considering it's a Tuesday release and he had 3 days of full tracking, and with the momentum he had, it could have gotten there. It's a shame that a lot of the album just missed, although it will be there next week, most likely. But the charts did still get busy with a big debut that I called last week, although I did not expect that the Dance Airplay charts would probably be the most busy that they've been ever. Seriously, the amount of debuts there and the stuff that fell off, it was nuts. And considering some of the quality of the debuts on Hot Dance, honestly I wouldn't mind if Skrillex just bulldozed through this next week, because seriously, this is a complete mess, and the Skrillex album bomb, it's absolutely welcome to cause some chaos. But unfortunately, the top 10 won't get affected as much, starting with Miles on It by Marshmello and Kane Brown at number 1, which again, not really going anywhere. Streaming is still on board with this and gaining in a big way, but seriously, the radio just needs to let go of this. I'm so sick of this goddamn song. I mean, seriously, can they not see how remotely boring this chart is? I mean, at least the Days Notion remix by Crystal at number 2 is a great song, and I'm happy that it's done this well, but considering the lack of stream momentum and the fact that radio's not touching it, there's a serious lack of movement going forward here, and there's nothing to really overtake it at this point. Case in point, Forever Young by David Guetta, Alphaville, and Ava Max at number 3, and seriously, this song needs to go away. It's really only because of residual radio and very poor streaming, but it's just way too strong for anything else to take over at this point, although I will say that there is at least a little bit more competition going forward, and that starts with our big debut that I called last week, and one that I'm insanely surprised was actually able to get this high. Light Years by John Summit featuring Inez at number 4, and this one really won across the board. Streaming is great, sales are good, and even if it doesn't have any radio support and probably doesn't look like it will get any, in a similar way to the Days Notion remix, and that's really funny when you actually get to the song itself. Yeah, I'm just thrilled that this got to the top 5 at all, and even with Skrillex's album bomb next week, I expect this to stick around, and thank God too. And hell, it even managed to knock down Slow Motion by Marshmello and the Jonas Brothers at number 5, although that one is because of the complete collapse on radio where it's getting replaced by a solo Jonas Brothers track, and given the streaming has always been poor, this was on its way out. I'm not exactly complaining either. Hell, it's even been overtaken on radio by Never Ender by Justice and Tame Impala at number 6, although it is still slowing down a bit on streaming for it to really make a run. I'm at least happy that it is sticking around on Pop Airplay, and even with the big debuts next week that I expect on that format, it's probably going to end up sticking around too. But where I can see Skrillex really impacting comes with the songs beneath it, starting with Move by Adam Port and Stripe featuring Malachi at number 7, and this one I'm not complaining at all as on its way out, and it really needs to be rotated out because seriously, 40 plus weeks for this song is stupid, and it wasn't even that great to begin with, so yeah, I'm not complaining that it might get kicked off next week from the high influx of Skrillex. But hell, it might even have challenges, beginning with the unwelcome jump into the top 10 for Paso Bem Solto by Atlas at number 8, where it looks like the streaming for this is absolutely blowing up across the world, although thankfully that's all it's got at this point, so I at least don't expect it to get any higher, but still, it is disappointing that Brazilian Funk's biggest hit is this. I mean, seriously, I didn't love Nunca Muda, but I'd at least take it over this crap, and unfortunately this isn't the last time we'll talk about Atlas on this series either, which is, yeah, not welcome at all. I mean, at least it overtook Heavy Love by Onatari at number 9, although seriously, I don't know which one is worse at this point. I am deeply suffering even thinking about these two. And finally, Chest by Joyful plummeted down to number 10, and when it's a TikTok novelty that's not guaranteed to have much staying power all once the meme died out, yeah, I'm not surprised it's falling pretty damn fast, and it's going to be out the top 10 next week. No complaints there. And on that note, when we look outside our top 10, there were some pretty decent falls and fall-offs, like Did I Tell You That I Miss You by Adore, a song that quite frankly stuck around way longer than I think anyone expected, and even had a run on Hot Rock / Alternative, but it's not going to make the year-end list in that format at least, but yeah, it's making it here, and it's a decent song, but it's nothing memorable at all. Alongside it, we also had Hypnotized by Anima and Ellie Goulding, which stuck around a bit longer than I expected, considering the John Summit remix was all this had going for it in its second run, and thankfully 2 phonk songs that are absolutely absolutely not good, with Phonk Debeliza by Natekian Scythermain and Phonk Do Bounce by Iris. And considering some of the debuts this week, it's pretty ironic that 2 songs with Phonk in the title are actually gone, but yeah, we'll unfortunately get to those. And the movements are mixed at best, although I expect a lot of these to get knocked down by Skrillex next week, and in some cases I'm not complaining, like The Less I Know The Better by Malp just losing all of its momentum down to 21, and it's going to be gone next week, at least for now, thank God. Sadly though, it also came with So Good by Nosy plummeting down to 25, although that song has stuck around a bit better than I expected, and I wasn't expecting it would get that much higher, so I'm at least not surprised, and it's probably going to make a run for the top 100 of this year, not complaining either. And for the jumps, well, Paso Bem Solitaire in the top 10 is going to be completely fine, but the other jump is going to be really in trouble of getting knocked out by Skrillex next week. Thank God too, because it's Smoke the Pain Away by Calvin Harris somehow getting a rebound up to 19. I'm not sure if it's because of the extended version of this track or some radio support or a streaming game behind it, but I hope to God that this song goes away. It's not remotely good at all. And on that note, what will also not likely last are a lot of our debuts, and thank God in the first case, because number 24, MONTAGEM LADRAO by ATLXS, and Itamar MC. Okay, seriously, round 2 with this guy, are we joking here? I mean, I already did not like Paso Bem Solto because of its horrible production and trying to popify a genre that's already taking a beating thanks to the Brazilian funk movement. That scene deserves so much more than this absolute crap getting momentum. But then comes his other song this week that also was blowing up in his top 10 on Spotify, and with MXZI, who is another London-based producer and one that I'll unfortunately get to talk about later on, so I'm not looking forward to that either, because man, this sucks. I mean, it's not as bad as Paso Bem Solto because it at least endorses some elements of Crush Club in its mix, especially down to that chalky percussion and the much more stabby synth arrangements. That's at least a little bit more tolerable, although it does draw a big amount of comparisons to Bike So by Xanteria, which is absolutely not a good song to compare yourself with. I mean, the mixing and mastering is crap, right down to the percussion sounding like it's going to break apart at the seams, with some serious lack of low-end bass frequencies, which is at least something that Bike So was able to actually get right. And when you have those vocal samples that are super dry compared to the synths, and the fake laser sounds that really feel forced as all hell, and the fact that, again, it tries to popify the scene to a point that it gets really insufferable, yeah, this is still not very good. At least more tolerable than Paso Bem Solto, but that's not a high bar. I'm not on board with this, skip it. Number 17, Worlds Apart by Marshmello and Arco. Don't wanna let you go, but I feel we're worlds apart. I wanna get you close. Jeez, really telling that I completely forgot that this song even came out this week. And considering the fact that Arco is an act that I actually really like and they were going to carry this on their presence alone, it's just a shame that in this case this really does not work at all and probably got overlooked for a reason, honestly. And of course, Arco, the reason that this isn't terrible, they've got a more soulful and gleeful vocal delivery that at least sounds nice. It does convey some sort of emotion, and considering the production around them, I can at least appreciate them actually balancing everything out, so I like their presence here. But it's a shame that said production is horrible in so many ways. For some reason, Marshmello decided that the best thing to do in 2025 is to go back to the Joytime 3 era of trap, which came out in 2019, and my god, this production just sucks. The mixing is really lousy, and those wavering synths on the chorus just sound cheap and really annoying in a way that I really did not like. I mean, it just really takes down the entire track for me and proves that Marshmello's mixing problems are still not going away. But in general, this just feels like the sort of exact unfinished trap that you'd expect out of Marshmello in 2025, and when this is clearly not performing well either alongside Slow Motion, it's kind of a proof that Marshmello's run of singles and the revival he got from Miles on it was a fluke, so yeah, skip it. Number 16, Toxic by Chris Lake and Ragie Ban. If I were you, I'd take them. Okay, Okay, so I'm not exactly surprised that this was the song that blew up the most for Chris Lake in recent memory. It's been a pretty popular idea at his live shows for a few months now, and considering there's a viral video of two guys going into his show having asked him if they've actually missed out on Toxic, which was very funny and what good marketing will do to an artist. I mean, I expected that this was going to do at least something, although considering the lack of success that Chris Lake has had since Somebody 2024, I thought that song would have killed his career and made him not get a potential hit again. But here we are, and this is a weird track. It's more of a darker bass heavy tech house cut with a lot more focus on the low frequencies as opposed to actual melody, although that is carried by the samples of Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe, which is a classic Newtown swing song from the 90s that I absolutely adore and is actually used pretty interestingly across this track. I mean, you've got those great classic harmonies that do sound really nice, especially on the chorus, but it also comes with that really iconic refrain and the drums with those horns that actually does fit quite well into this sound, even despite not having very many similarities to what's actually being presented elsewhere. Honestly, the vibe of this alone just reminds me a lot of Porce's remixes that have been popular in recent memory, and as someone who actually likes Porce more than most people, I was actually surprisingly on board with this. It keeps up the groovy and energetic momentum of the original Poison track, but gives it a lot more of a darker edge that flows well into Chris Lake's signature sound, to the point where the lack of melody, it surprisingly didn't bother me, and those harmonies from the original really do well in their own right, so yeah, it's at least a little bit more understandable why he really didn't focus on melody this time. I mean, it's got a similar appeal to me to Porce's remix of Pick Up the Phone, which again, not exactly something that a lot of people like, but I actually really enjoy that remix. And with this, honestly, I don't mind it. Pretty solid song. I don't expect it to stick around because of Skrillex next week, but I'll at least be curious if this stuck around a bit longer after the fact, because yeah, this is solid. I don't mind it. Number 15, MONTAGEM TOMADA by MXZI. La vida es un Whereas on the other end, I expect this to absolutely surge next week, and oh my god, are we seriously doing this again? In fact, in this case, this really does not work for me at all. I might like this even less than MONTAGEM LADRAO, which is really saying something. I mean, seriously, it's so obvious that these guys are going for that sort of cultural appropriation that has completely stained the scene. This is a London-based producer, for God's sake, and the vocal samples that he used across this track, they feel like the most generic Brazilian appropriation that I've heard in a minute. This sounds terrible. I mean, again, the mixing is dog shit. The production feels like it's lacking any sort of groove to it. The instrumentation just completely breaks apart across the track. The obnoxious vocal chops with the borderline chipmunk register really were not a good addition either, and the song can barely run over 70 seconds. Seriously, why do we keep doing this? Again, it's more of the same shit, but with different poppier edges this time around, just like Passo Bem Solto, and in this case when it can't even stay cohesive to the scene that it's replicating and ripping off. And seriously, there's a lot of Crush Club elements in this one too that sound even worse than on MONTAGEM LADRAO. Yeah, no, I'm not on board with this either. Another week, another no-name or phonk artist that will chart nothing after these two finally end their run, and thank God too, because this blows. Skip it. And finally, number 4, Light Years by John Summit featuring Inez. But thank God we end on what's probably the best story of this week. John Summit managing to actually outperform Focus in terms of his big breakthrough songs after Comfort in Chaos. And with this being one of the most beloved IDs that he's had in store for a while and getting a huge amount of positive reception on release, I was excited for this one, and yeah, the hype is absolutely real. In fact, this might be the most I've liked a song from John Summit since Shiver. I adore this one. What I like a lot about John Summit is that he likes to try some new things out of his comfort zone, especially on that album, which proved that he was a lot more diverse as a producer than I think anyone expected. And with this, he goes for more of a speedy bass house cut in the same style as the Days Notion remix, right down to those really buzzy synths that sound absolutely grimy as all hell. They sounded really cool. Some immaculate mixing where the atmosphere feels so huge and ready for the dance floor. I can absolutely see this being a staple there and going off in that setting. And when you combine it with the stabbier percussion, the faster tempo, this stupidly catchy hook, and Inez's pitch-shifted vocals, which are just borderline on chipmunk, but actually have enough vocal effects to really feel like they fit well here. Seriously, the higher end of this track is carried entirely by her vocals, and that's absolutely a good thing. I mean, I can see why some would not like this in the same way. Again, it does feel a bit interesting that this was timed a few months after the Dance Airplay remix got big, but the fact that John Summit now is so consistently excellent, yeah, it's proof that he can continue to go down this route more, and it would really work out well for him. His singles just keep getting better and more successful, and that's awesome. So yeah, one of the best songs that's charting on Hot Dance this year, absolutely for me. And while I don't think that this is the best of the week, we'll get to that later on, I'm amazed that this is even doing as well as it is, but I'm not complaining either, because this is goddamn excellent. Absolutely worth checking out if you somehow haven't already. But sadly, once we leave that, we get 3 of the charts that I usually cover having barely anything happen this week. And seriously, if this is a sign that this particular era of the charts is getting really stale, I don't know what is. Starting off with the dead carcass that is dance pop, where Abracadabra by Lady Gaga is still at number 1, with good radio offset by decent streaming, although it did get beaten out in streaming by Revolving Door by Tate McRae at number 2, although with that song having absolutely no radio support at all, it's really an easy win for Gaga here. Besides that, there is nothing really of note. Sao Paulo by The Weeknd and Anita fell off yet again, being replaced by Now or Never by Bon Jovi and Pitbull at 13, and the only movement that really matters is Too Much by Dove Cameron up to number 8. It's really interesting to see this actually succeed. I thought this song would have really stalled out pretty fast, but it's actually getting decent momentum, and I'm not complaining, it's a solid song. And then following that, Dead Zone, well, dance streaming expectedly was a black void devoid of any interesting things to note, but at least compared to dance pop, there were some things. I mean, yes, Revolving Door by Tate McRae obviously was going to hold number 1, with Abracadabra by Lady Gaga at number 2. These two are pretty damn close in that regard too, so I'm not exactly expecting a lot of stability at the top there. But lower down, some stuff actually happened, like Extra L by Jenny and Doechii taking a big hit to 15 as it starts losing even more album momentum, and like Jenny's already doing better than it, so I can't complain, even though those songs are not good at all. And surprisingly, the Chainsmokers had a good week with something just like this with Coldplay at number 9, and Closer with Halsey actually counting as a gain at number 10 this week. Interesting. And in our returns, well, Summertime Sadness by Lana Del Rey versus Cedric Gervais was going to be an obvious return at 14. It's got really good recurrent numbers, but the big story is Yes And by Ariana Grande at 13. This one got a big boost thanks to the Eternal Sunshine re-release in the deluxe edition, and really, I'm just surprised that this particular track actually managed to get some sort of momentum. Considering how well it would have felt on dance pop, it's really down to recurrency why that song is not even on that chart to begin with, and hey, it is what it is. And hey, at least dance sales had some stuff go down, not really any unique debuts, but at least there were some actual interesting stories here. Abracadabra by Lady Gaga is obviously going to hold number 1 on this one pretty damn steadily. It's probably going to be the biggest song on this chart this year in terms of its momentum, and that's a good thing. But we got some big movements beneath too, and they're all over the place here. In our falls, Too Much by Dove Cameron plummeted down to number 4, and The Less I Know The Better by Mal P at number 11. Both of these are interesting cases for very different reasons. I mean, I'm not surprised that The Less I Know The Better is finally losing out, but Too Much falling this hard despite gaining on dance pop is pretty interesting in a way. But the positive movements are a lot more interesting in that case too, and really outside the obvious jump for Dancing Queen by ABBA at number 10. And in our returns, we had Staying Alive by the Bee Gees at number 9, again not surprising at all. But the big story is The Spark by Cabin Crew featuring Liz Doon Varna Crew rebounding to 13, and it might be possibly because of the Felix Jan remix, but more importantly, it's just weird that a song like this has been able to be as successful as it has. None of the other songs from either of these crews have actually done next to anything on this charts. This seems to be a one and done thing, and thank goodness that the song's actually grown on me a decent bit. It's still not great because of those childish vocals, but the actual flow, the production, they're solid. I can see the appeal at least there. I mean, I don't expect it to stick around, but it's at least interesting that this is here. And on that note, our 2 debuts, which are both songs that I was expecting would chart here quite comfortably, being Toxic by Chris Lake and Ragie Band at number 3, and Light Years by John Summer featuring Inez at number 7. Both of them are the people in charge of their particular labels, which are both tech house focused, and considering that a lot of that genre actually does well on dance sales, especially with beatports, it doesn't surprise me that their own material is doing this well. And they're both good songs at minimum too, so I'm not exactly upset about this either. But now we have to get onto Dance Mixture Airplay, and Jesus Christ, a lot happened here. Although we start with a welcome surprise. Into the Blue by Will Sass and Camille actually managed to hit number 1, and this one was really interesting because on the day that this chart updated, the spins behind this track were a little bit weaker than number 2, which gives me the impression that Mixture Airplay was really what got this over the top, and considering it's still gaining spins at a really fast rate, this has the possibility of lasting a second week at number 1. That's just wild to me. Although I will say it is a bit of a shame that Never Walk Alone by Blondish and Stevie Appleton didn't get there, currently stranded at number 2. I mean, it had better spins on Dance Airplay than Into the Blue, so it must have just been down to the margins. That's really unlucky in a way. But what's more shocking, Visions of You by Halo only fell down to number 3 this week, which yes, it is starting to lose spins at a decent rate. I expect this to finally be going soon, but the fact that it's stuck around this high and this long is insane. I did not think that the single that would be getting a lot more spins than anything else this year was a deep cut from Halo's solo debut album. I mean, I'm not complaining because it's great, but still. Hell, it's even beating out Crash by Loud Luxury, falling off that number 1 down to number 4. But given that the radio is throwing this out at a really fast rate, and the audience impressions for this are not good at all, it's really telling how fast this is finally getting rotated out. And the fact that Visions of You is above it despite being on the charts double its time on here, that's really interesting and really revealing in a way. But then there's Beautiful People by David Guetta and Sia at number 5, which I expect will comfortably get to number 1 in the next couple of weeks, considering the spins are pretty steady and pretty solid. Again, this is going to be an easy smash hit, and I'm not exactly complaining about it sticking around either. It's one of his better songs in recent memory. But then there's Hot and Mysterious by Austin Mills and Carlo at number 6. Now this one did take a little bit of a hit in terms of spins across the past week, but considering it rebounded on spins pretty quickly, it's at least going to rebound a bit on this chart. Most likely get into the top 5 too, which is awesome. I really would like to see it get there. Now, I also expect Say My Name remix by Morgan C. Tree featuring Florence and the Machine at number 7 to also get into that top 5 quite comfortably. It's doing pretty damn well in terms of spins, and even if it has slowed down a little bit, it's not showing any signs of going away anytime soon. But for Crossfire by Frank Walker and Alexander Stewart down to number 8, this might not be as lucky. It's starting to lose spins and it might be on its way out soon, although it has stuck around longer than any other song that Frank Walker has charted here at all. So congratulations at least in that regard. It's going to make the year-end list at least. But at least it's not looking as bad in terms of its falls in comparison to Tantalizing by Tiesto and Soki Siren at number 9. This is finally on its way out, and considering the better Afro House stuff that's charting right now, I'm not exactly complaining that this is finally going away. It's been long overdue. Finally, in a surprise new entry to the top 10 that was actually pretty unexpected, Abracadabra by Lady Gaga even got here at number 10. And this is one of the rare cases that a pop song has actually managed to cross over, and while most people would think that it's because of the mix show support, it's actually down to the fact that this got some decent momentum on Dance Airplay as is. It was basically a balancing act that allowed it to get a lot more points than anyone expected, and that's great. I'm really happy to see it here. But wow, the obvious busy part this week was going to be our fall-offs, and geez, we lost 7 of them this week, with a lot of them being really notable as well. Just on a list of songs that are making the year-end list: Apartment by Rose and Bruno Mars, Someone Else by GT Office, Cave by Dom Dollar and Tove Lo, Forever Young by David Guetta, Alphaville and Ava Max, and even World Gone Wild by Robin Schulz and Cyril featuring Sam Martin, with Akon's Beautiful Day by Akon being borderline, although I hope to God that that misses because it really sucks. But surprisingly enough, we didn't see a ton of falls here, and outside of Tantalizing in the top 10, a lot of them are not exactly all that surprising either. Hypnotized by Nima and Ellie Goulding at 18, I'm Going Out by Steve Aoki, Sanfeld, Nile Rodgers, Sandra and Zach Abel at 26, and Heaven Knows by Cascade and Punctual featuring Poppy Bascom at 31. 21. Really happy that that last one is making the year-end list. Great news for Monster Cats at least, and it's a really good song too. But thankfully the jumps and comebacks are a lot more manageable, and yes, we had 2 comebacks this week, both of them likely thanks to Mix Show Airplay, being Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA at 33, and That's So True by Gracie Abrams at 34. I don't expect either of these to have a ton of momentum, but it's at least nice to see Luther come back. It is a good song. Besides that, honestly not really complaining about these jumps. I mean, the worst one's a Sports Car by Tate McRae at 17, and Don't Say a Thing by the Hotel Lobby off the debut to 29. But along with that, we got In My Head by Griffin and Cascade featuring Nula at 30, Wrap Yourself Around Me by DOD featuring North at 25, and Don't Wake Me Up by James Hype, surging off the debut as expected to 21. Again, smash hit in the making, and it's a really good song too. This is not a bad thing at all. But thankfully, we're in the super lucky position where out of our big list of 6 debuts this week, one of them is a song that I've already covered, and thankfully it's the worst one, being Smoke the Pain Away by Calvin Harris at 36, which I don't expect to have much staying power at all, and considering the song's really record low number of audience impression, and the fact that nobody seems to like it, I only hope it underperforms on this chart. It's got every reason to. But moving on from that to a big list of debuts here, starting off with number 40, Adrenaline by Bingo Players and Landis featuring JUSTNKAYSE.
But I miss your adrenaline rush, and I'm trying to erase it, but I keep replaying it over and over.
It always surprises me that Bingo Players have been in the scene for over 15 years at this point, and also the fact that they've actually had some consistent charters in 2020 besides just this song. I mean, this is their 3rd charting song this decade after Forever Love and Pieces. Both were pretty decent but nothing memorable, and this is pretty decent and nothing memorable as well. I mean, JUSTNKAYSE is at least trying to make this stand out. She's got a lot more personality than you'd expect, and her exaggerated vocal delivery before the chorus was at least welcome. Shame nothing else here really stands out at all. Nice pianos with some decent synths that create a nice sunny atmosphere. The drops have groove and not particularly interesting melodies, but they're at least there. I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect out of modern Bingo Players. Generally fine for what it is, very solid and easy to like, but the sort of thing that's basically just Dance Airplay filler at this point. And given that this has taken forever to chart here off the media-based charts, I don't expect this to have much staying power at all. Not complaining that much. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not interesting at all either. Number 39, Never Forget You by Afrojack.
I don't know your body like the back of my hand. Nobody can hold me in the way that you can. Even when you go, I'll never forget you, baby.
And on the note of Dance Airplay filler, well, at least in this case it makes a bit more sense. Afrojack's been doing decently well on Dance Airplay. They're basically like a darling to him at this point. And considering that this is one of his better performing songs in recent memory, I'm not exactly surprised that the radio got on board with this. And yeah, the song's pretty solid, even if, again, it is very forgettable. The vocalist here is a lot less memorable than JUSTNKAYSE, but at least has a soulful presence that does fit the production a lot better than JUSTNKAYSE does. And when the production is really solid, surprisingly, considering Afrojack's history of bad mixing with certain tracks, yeah, I'm not complaining about this at all. The production builds up some good atmosphere with those prog-esque synths and the violin that do sound quite nice, and the drops have a lot more groove and punch to them than I expected. Honestly, again, for Afrojack's mixing problems, he actually did quite well here for no reason. And yeah, pretty solid as a result. It's far from Afrojack's best or even close to the best song on this chart right now, but for what it is, this is perfectly fine. I guess I'll take it. Number 37, Cry For Me by The Weeknd.
Every night for you, I've been living with this lie, now I can't hide the truth.
Man, this took a long time to cross over, and I'm really glad it's finally here and I can actually talk about it. So for those of you who forgot, Cry For Me was the biggest debut from Hurry Up Tomorrow's album bomb, and while it's definitely far from my favourite track on the album, considering that both Open Hearts and Wake Me Up are right there, this is a really good single to launch off of the album's release, and yeah, really solid. I actually might like this one the most out of the singles, or at least closer to Sao Paulo. I mean, in terms of nailing that dark dystopic atmosphere with those really intense Sims against the Weeknd's more delicate vocals, it nails that sort of vibe perfectly, going for much more of a darker atmosphere that I think is absolutely perfect for the Weeknd. And when you consider the content about his toxic desire to hook up with this past partner, to the point where he references back to the 2022 incident where he almost lost his voice on stage, and he's really replicating that sort of toxic response to that. Yeah, this is a really good way to at least introduce a lot of people to this album, and considering the overarching themes that it presents, yeah, really solid. I mean, it's nice to see this on this chart, and while I don't expect it to really have a ton of staying power considering the run that Sacrifice had, if this actually sticks around and becomes a decent hit, I wouldn't complain about that at all, because yeah, I really like this really solid song. Number 35, Bad Dreams by Teddy Swims. Topic of welcome crossovers through Mix Show, yeah, this might be one of the best ones yet, and really I've loved this track since it first charted on the Hot 100, and it's only gotten better with time. Teddy Swims sounds terrific. He's only refined his personality and presence as a vocalist since I first reviewed him back in 2022. I'm really impressed with his growth, and when you combine it with that production with those muffled guitars and the pianos and that building percussion that at least is pretty restrained at first before the drops come in, where it gives a lot more low-end groove than I think anyone expected. Yeah, I'm fully on board with the way this sounds. It is excellent in that regard. And when you combine it with the content where Teddy Swims really wants this girl to come and be with him to help him through these bad dreams that he's experiencing, yeah, it is a little bit pushy. I can see why some people would not like this on the lyrics alone. But for me, as someone who loves Teddy Swims when he goes more soulful and goes for more of a mature side, yeah, I'm actually really on board with what he's talking about here. And the song itself is great, and I really hope it sticks around, although considering how slow it's going on Pop Airplay, I don't expect it will, which is a shame, but yeah, this is great. And finally, number 32, Come With Me by Major League DJs and Jorja Smith.
I just said there's more I want you to know.
But to end things off on probably the best note this week, remember back when I was reviewing Light Years and I said that there was a song that's possibly better than it this week? Yeah, this is absolutely it. And anyone who's seen my reaction to this song on the Discord server for TOTC would know exactly why I think this, because this is one of the best songs of the year so far. And that's insane because Major League DJs, I mean, they're a South African-based duo that have been pretty popular for a while, but they cut an album with Major Lazer a few years ago that was not particularly good. So the fact that they ended up making something this incredible with Jorja Smith, yeah, I'm shocked. And again, it's proof that an actual authentic Afro house song made by African artists is the best version to do this, because in comparison to all the other Afro house songs that feel like they're forcing it, this just has a level of organic warmness that I never expected. Seriously, in terms of the relaxed, soulful, and genuinely gorgeous side of this scene, this absolutely nails everything perfectly. Those pianos against the distant, soulful vocals of Jorja Smith are just excellently introduced, and with the whole track building around them with this smooth percussion and a much more breezy atmosphere, we can play this on a beach during a sunset and it would absolutely go off. Yeah, I'm fully on board with how this sounds. And when you top it off with Jorja Smith delivering some of the most gorgeous vocals in this entire scene and proving why she's incredibly underrated, seriously, on texture alone, she can rival the best in R&B at the moment. Yeah, I am absolutely on board with this. And seriously, how does she nail it every single time? It's absolutely nuts. I mean, in terms of that perfect summer aesthetic with the sort of track that should have been an absolute smash hit, this just nails every single button for me, and really it's the sort of track that I don't think many other songs that chart on any formats will beat this year. Absolutely excellent, definitely worth checking out. Let's make this a proper hit. And even on a really strong week where Light Years by John Summit featuring Inez is going to get the Honourable Runner-Up, yeah, shock horror, this is absolutely going to get the best for me. One of the best songs that's charted on any format this year. And shock, lock, the two worst are going to both of the MONTAGEM songs, with MONTAGEM TOMADA by MXZI solo getting the worst, and MONTAGEM LADRAO with ATLS and that utterly forgettable MC as the Dishonourable runner-up. And again, I am not looking forward to seeing these surge next week, which is very likely. But next week, Skrillex is coming. I at least expect a pretty decent impact from that album, and considering the quality, it is absolutely exciting. Hell, we might even get a bit of Pink Pantheress on the dance pop charts, which is absolutely welcome. But yeah, that's all for this episode of an analysis of dance. See you next time.